used to do it, so I'm very full aware of what I used to condemn brothers and sisters if you did not pronounce the name of the Lord and His Son the way I was taught to pronounce it. And I see that that was a grievous error. So now you get these dumb black Hebrew Israelites. Oh, he took a bribe. He took a bribe. Really? Are you insane? Really? And then we bring out Acts 2, how when they taught the gospel in the name of the Lord, they say, no. So when they got to the name, they switched to Hebrew. When they spoke in the Greek tongue, when they got to the name of the Lord, they said it in Hebrew. When they got to the Arabic language, when they got to His name, they flipped it in Hebrew. And I remember hearing one of these dummies say that. And I said, show me the verse where in Acts 2, when they spoke the gospel in all those languages, when Israel was scattered, that when they got to the name of the Lord, they went back to the Hebrew tongue. I said, I want to see the verse. Show me the verse. When Israel was scattered, that when they got to the name of the Lord, they went back to the Hebrew tongue. I said, when Israel was scattered, that when they got to the name of the Lord, they went back to the Hebrew tongue. I said, I want to see the verse. Show me the verse.
Now, the verse is in Ecclesiasticus. In the prologue, it says, which we have labored to interpret. Some words was hard to translate, but he said, for the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force in them. And not only these things, but the law itself and the prophets and the rest of the books have no small difference when they are spoken in their own language. In their own language. So what was the language that the name of the Lord was spoken? It was spoken in Hebrew. And Peter, above all people, knew about the Apocrypha and Ecclesiasticus. When you go into John chapter 10, verse 22, it say, and it was at Jerusalem, the feast of the dedication, and it was winter, and Yahushua, who he want us to call Jesus, walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. And so they were still practicing the feast of dedication in Yahushua's day. And Peter and all the apostles and all the Israelites knew about the Apocrypha and knew about the feast of dedication and their history in the Greek captivity. And then they knew that they had names for this man in Greek because they were dealing with the Greeks and the Edomites, but they knew that none of that stuff was worth any good unless it was in its own language. It didn't have no power unless it was in its own language. So when you get to Acts chapter 4 and the Sadducees and the high priest was dealing with Peter, filled with the Holy Spirit, said to the rulers and the people and the elders of Israel, he said, neither is there salvation in any other, for there is none other name under heaven given among men whereby we must be saved. So he talked about salvation. He talked about being saved, and he talked about a name to all the elders and the people of Israel and the rulers. Filled with the Holy Spirit, meaning the Most High told them that you have to use this name. And they knew that these other languages, it wasn't worth nothing. Dealing with the Sirach in their history. They knew. And then when you go into the law, it talks about another God's name shouldn't be mentioned. You shouldn't even mention another God's name. And so these names that they put on Yahushua was already used. Cerastus Crispus, and calling him Christ, they got that from Crispus. A whole nother god that was in Egypt that the Greeks had made when they took over Egypt. Or the Greeks started worshiping once they took over Egypt. And so these names that these peoples are using, they're not Hebrew. And Yahushua is just the more, it makes more sense than any other, because the Yahshua, that's some stuff that the Greeks done put in their vowels and their language. They mix their language in, so it's still not straight Hebrew. And any other version of the name is not straight Hebrew. They got German and other vowels mixed in, and it's not the pure language, or the leftovers of the pure language. But the Paleo Hebrew, its certified fact, is known to be the authentic remaining parts of the Hebrew. It might not be the perfect parts of the Hebrew, but it's the remaining parts of the Hebrew, without no influence of Greeks or Edomites. And so when you say Yahushua or Yahweh, you saying something that's in the original, in the original language of the own, in Hebrew, without any temperament. And it's got verse. You got verses. When you go into chapter 2, he was talking about chapter 2. Show him the verse. And verse 11, it say, the Cretans and the Arabians, we do hear them speak in our own tongues the wonderful works of God. You see, he telling them the works of God. He ain't talking about that they didn't, when they got to the name, they didn't explain to them what Sirach and the forefathers was telling them, that when they translate these words, or when the word is switched over, it don't have no power. It has more power in its own language. And those are verses that he ignoring, along with the other verses where it said the elect would know the name. He was giving his name to the elect. And when you go to John, this is one of my favorite verses when it comes to the name, due to me dealing with Jehovah's wickedness. John 12 and 28. He said, Father, glorify thy name. Then came there a voice from heaven saying, I have both glorified it and will glorify it again. You see, he glorified the name of the Lord, and the Most High spoke out of heaven, or got an angel to speak out of heaven to give him the encouragement to keep doing it, and that he was doing the right thing. And so I'm going to leave it there. All praise to Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Hashem and Kakadash. Double honors to the elders pushing the truth. Peace to the elect worldwide. The kingdom is at hand. Shalom.